So when Cenk's argument is used against him, he looks really bad, especially since the belief he shares with Trump and other right-wingers are truly odious.
Keep it 100, I be feeling like Campbell soup over white rice, baked chicken with the skin on, yeah, Lowry's with black pepper, I'm fully seasoned with laughter.
Hey, what's up, y'all? So I'm sorry I haven't been consistently uploading. I just had surgery a little while ago and I'm still recovering. Plus these meds, these damn meds are killing me. I don't really have to explain too much. Y'all know what I'm saying. So I ain't gonna explain anymore. So tell you what I want to talk about is the Young Turks CEO Cenk Uygur. He makes an argument that really annoys me, and it's complete foolishness. So I'm gonna just get into it. So the Young Turks CEO Cenk Uygur, in an attempt to smear his political rivals, constantly makes incredibly disingenuous arguments. So this video, I want to focus on one of those arguments. This is a clip from Cenk's appearance on The Hills Rising, where he discusses the conflict between the Young Turks and Jimmy Dore.
Your thoughts on the ongoing feud with Jimmy Dore, which I know a lot of our viewers are following very closely. Do you have anything to add to his most recent, I would say, comments on that issue?
No, look, the guy's kind of pathetic, and so he's now, most of his fans are right wingers, and literally the Daily Stormer wrote an article defending him yesterday. Daily Stormer is a neo-Nazi website. Now, look, I don't know that Jimmy asked for it, so you can say, hey, well, they just happen to agree. It's not Jimmy's fault that he agrees with neo-Nazis. Okay, I guess, but that's disturbing.
There are really grotesque people in the world. There's like literal Nazis in the world. They write at the Daily Stormer. So interestingly enough, they also wrote about this story. Can we put it up on the screen here? I'm sorry that we have to subject you to the headline above that as well. But remember, these are literal Nazis. And they run with the headline, Anna Kasparian blackmailing Jimmy Dore with Me Too hoax. Hoax. You saw it on tape for exposing the Young Turks pro-war agenda. We also don't have a pro-war agenda. Every part of this story is a lie.
Cenk made a similar argument against Glenn Greenwald here in this clip.
Glenn, you call yourself a journalist? Pathetic, absolutely pathetic. The hatchet job from a guy who I thought was a journalist in an earlier career, who now has become some weirdo right-winger. And if you say, oh, no, he's actually really left-wing, but he just happens to go on Tucker Carlson and Jimmy Dore's show, and he happens to support all these right-wing talking points. It just all happens to be, and he never happens to criticize right-wing. Okay, now, just because the Nazis agree with Glenn and Jimmy, and by the way, other people, it doesn't mean that Glenn and Jimmy are Nazis. We're fair. You look, Hitler was a vegetarian. That doesn't mean vegetarians are Nazis, right? But when the Nazis agree with you, you should probably quadruple check your position. Did Glenn look like he quadruple checked his position? No.
The point of me playing these clips are to show that Cenk has made arguments similar to this one multiple times. The other reasons I play these clips are to illustrate that Cenk's false premise that if someone on the left, if their position happens to align with that of someone on the right, that person should reevaluate their position, or that their position is inherently immoral or incorrect. The final reason I want to show you these clips are because when the same standard is applied to Cenk, you will see that it doesn't look too good for him. And unlike Glenn Greenwald and Jimmy Dore, the shared beliefs of Cenk and those on the right are truly odious. Cenk knows the arguments that he's making is completely disingenuous, and I will show you this by the video's end that he doesn't truly believe what he's saying. The premise of Cenk's argument is that if your position happens to match with that of someone who's on the right, your position is right-wing and immoral. Ironically, the position that Cenk shares with the right happens to be quite immoral. A synopsis of what's going on between Jimmy Dore and Glenn Greenwald and the Young Turks is Anna Kasparian accused Jimmy Dore of sexually harassing her after he was critical of her journalism.
And you're not supposed to question their motives. I question their motives. Cenk Uygur's on the take, and he's working for the Democratic Party, and he's working for his corporate donors, Jeffrey Katzenberg, Buddy Roemer, right-wingers. He's against Julian Assange. He's a total fucking corporate sellout. It's pathetic that you don't want those people to get health care during this either, isn't it? Yes, it's pathetic that TYT is against people getting Medicare right now in this moment. That's pathetic. And your audience, 90% of them see right through the Young Turks. They did a poll. 90% of them said, let's do hashtag forced to vote. Cenk still won't do it because he's being paid not to, I think. Here's some more journalists in the United States not screaming about this or even covering it. The Young Turks, they smeared Julian Assange plenty. And then they wouldn't cover this trial. And you know that Anna Kasparian gives tongue baths to war criminals at NATO conventions. They're always for more war at the Young Turks. They called it Nerf bombs when Trump bombed Syria. They wanted more. Every time it comes up, the Young Turks are for war. And I was always against it, and I was always right. Cenk was cheering on Libya. Down goes Gaddafi. You saw that. They were for bombing Syria. They were wrong. In 2014, they were wrong again when Trump did it. And now they have to be, watch this. This is them taking questions on a live chat, and watch what happens.
Super chats. Kimber Maddox says, free Assange, he's being tortured. You have more subscribers than any other progressive media outlet. Please cover his court hearings. I promise you we'll look into that.
We'll look into it. They had to be prompted by a viewer. Hey, why aren't you covering Julian Assange? I promise I'll look into it. The number one story in journalism in her lifetime. She's promising to look into it. That's kind of stunning. She's going to look into it any day now, by the way. Any day now. We're still waiting. So that was, I don't know, months ago? Still waiting. I guess they covered it today because people are calling them out on social media now for being completely corporate and MSNBC light. Here's how they covered Julian Assange last year. So do you remember this story that Paul Manafort conspired with WikiLeaks? That Paul Manafort visited Julian Assange 3 times at the Ecuadorian embassy? But it was written by that guy, Luke Harding, who Aaron Matei outed already as a bullshitter, a garbage journalist who just does propaganda for the security surveillance state and the intelligence community. And it was clear. And he walked off his show, Luke Harding. And so we've made fun of Luke Harding, and everybody in the node has been doing it. But the Young Turks are Russiagators, right? So they repeat CIA talking points uncritically all the time for the last 4 years, constantly. And they're pro-war. They wanted more war. They're imperialists. They're wrong on Venezuela. They're wrong on Syria. They're wrong on Libya. They're wrong on Afghanistan. I know. So here's how they covered it. So this story, I'd already debunked the story in their own fucking newsroom when they're covering this. I'd already debunked this. This is a 100% garbage story. It's completely made up. And watch how they cover it.
There is more breaking news today. The Guardian has reported that Manafort allegedly held secret talks with Julian Assange on several different occasions.
Now, I reported that as breaking propaganda. That's not breaking news, Anna. That's breaking propaganda.
Manafort's first visit to the Ecuadorian embassy took place a year after Assange sought asylum inside, and that's according to 2 sources.
2 sources, but they don't tell you who the 2 sources are. Well, you know why? Because they don't exist. You know why? Because this didn't happen. That's why. There's no photos of it. It's the most surveilled building in the world. They had constant surveillance. It's been revealed that they had his bathroom, a camera in his bathroom. They had him constantly surveilled. There's no pictures of this happening. The Young Turks don't ask that question. Where are the photos? They don't. They just repeat CIA talking points uncritically. Anybody doing good work, they're going to smear because that's what the Young Turks are. And they're not journalists. They're not journalists. They don't do journalism. just so you know. Anna Kasparian teaches a class, no kidding, at what's college is it?
I thought it was Northridge.
Northridge? Yeah.
Maybe Aaron Matei should sign up for it.
Yeah.
He's in Syria right now doing journalism. He's kind of busy.
Maybe when he comes back from Syria, he could get into a journalism class taught by Anna Kasparian. Jesus Christ.
Cenk, who is a former lawyer, which is funny, Cenk being a former lawyer, and he did this. He accidentally disproved Anna's allegations. So the full video breakdown is here, and it's also going to be on the end screen. Some on the right who point out that Anna's Me Too allegations, at the very least, has gaping holes and things don't quite add up. But in reality, it's clear that Jimmy's account of the story is much more likely to be accurate. This is not a left-right issue. Anyone who is objective and have common sense can see that Anna isn't being completely forthcoming. And if you don't know exactly what I'm talking about, watch my full video breakdown where Cenk accidentally confirmed Jimmy's account of the story. So Cenk said, because right-wing outlets share a common sense opinion that Jimmy and Glenn are right-wing and they're terrible. So what about when this same standard is applied to Cenk? On April 13th, 2018, Donald Trump bombed a Syrian air base after Syrian President Bashar al-Assad was accused of using a chemical weapons attack on his own people.
Fellow Americans, on Tuesday, Syrian dictator Bashar al-Assad launched a horrible chemical weapons attack on innocent civilians. Using a deadly nerve agent, Assad choked out the lives of helpless men, women, and children. It was a slow and brutal death for so many. Even beautiful babies were cruelly murdered in this very barbaric attack. No child of God should ever suffer such horror. Tonight I ordered a targeted military strike on the airfield in Syria from where the chemical attack was launched.
This was later disproven after OPCW whistleblowers who investigated the attacks said the attacks were likely staged. So Cenk would tell you that he never at any point supported Trump bombing Syria.
He says, I'm in favor of bombing Syria. I've never said that. He's a preposterous liar.
But he was in favor of bombing Syria when Obama was in office.
Yeah, did they cross the red line or didn't they? Now, look, I know it's a tough situation, and I've said that about Syria all along, and I know that they're partly buying time here, but the reality is they don't want to go. They were bluffing, hoping that they wouldn't cross the red line, and I know that there was good reason to bluff because we wanted to make sure they didn't use chemical or biological weapons. But now our bluff's been called, so what are you going to do? Now let me show you why they don't want to take military action. First of all, the American people have been polled. They don't want to go. 62% say hell no, 24% say yes. Now, I'm partly in the yes category. This is a rare situation where I'm not in the center of the country. Like, I love to show polls and show, look, my position is the same as the American people. Here, I don't want ground troops. That would be an absolute mess. But I think if we drew a red line and we said, hey, listen, we're going to set a precedent not to use chemical, biological, or nuclear weapons, and a dictator has crossed that line, I think using our Air Force is a significant possibility. and we could, knock down their entire fleet probably fairly quickly and efficiently, thereby giving the rebels a much bigger advantage and sending a message without having to risk ground troops. It doesn't mean you don't risk anything, and it does cost a lot of money. I get all that, and there are significant downsides. But we can't have our bluff called and not do anything about it. We lose all credibility, and plus, even more important than that, I don't want anybody using chemical and biological and nuclear weapons, so I do want to send that message.
He advocated for bombing Syria multiple times.
I'm curious, Jimmy, that you might agree with that, that this doesn't accomplish much, and hence what's the point? But does that mean that if it did accomplish more, you'd be in favor of it, or no?
No.
So you're against it under all circumstances?
So under all circumstances, I'm against it, because it's just more war and there's no reason to it, certainly not the reason they're giving us. I have a hard time believing that Barack Obama gives a shit about the civilians in Syria. I really don't think he cares. And because if he did care, if that was really the litmus test of innocent people, why aren't we bombing North Korea? Why aren't we bombing?
Because we can. And isn't that fair? Look, I'm going to take you guys on that, okay? Because so we can't bomb Russia if Russia uses chemical weapons, because we don't want to start World War III. You're right, absolutely, right? Okay, but why don't we take the low-lying fruit? Okay, send a message wherever we practically can. So North Korea, I'd love to decapitate all the leaders in North Korea and set that country free. But we might lose Seoul, South Korea, and millions of people. We can't do it, right? And if we can do it in Syria and help some people, well, okay, that's a good place to start.
Well, the reason why you can't selectively enforce the law is because it breeds disrespect and contempt for the law. So if you're trying to uphold international law selectively, you're doing the exact opposite. You're undermining international law, because we illegally invaded Iraq, and a million people were killed, displaced other millions, countless. How many thousands of innocent people were killed in that? That was an illegal war. We lied about it. If nobody kept us in check, somehow we have to still keep other people in check. I said it yesterday, you can't have Tony Soprano giving out parking tickets. It doesn't fucking work.
Yeah, but if you...
I don't know why Israel flipped on it, but they did. So is that part of our decision-making? Have you been paying attention to American politics? Of course it's part of our decision-making. But I don't view that as nefarious. I view that as if you're Israel, Assad is never going to harm you. And so the fact that they're now saying we should attack Assad, I don't think that's a bad thing.
So Cenk was only against bombing Syria when Trump was in favor of bombing Syria. So I said this in the previous video. If your morals change based on whether someone shares the same morals or disagrees with you or agrees with you, you have no morals. Your morals aren't supposed to fluctuate based on whether someone agrees with your morals or not. That doesn't make any damn sense. So if you ever change your morals because someone doesn't agree with your morals, or because someone shares the same morals as you just have no morals. I am anti-war, full stop. I'm against all wars. Bush is trash for his illegal, unconstitutional wars. Obama is trash for turning 2 wars into 7. Donald Trump is trash for bombing Syria. Joe Biden is trash for bombing Somalia, which is not talked about enough. Joe Biden, he bombed Syria and Somalia. So when Cenk's argument is used against him, he looks really bad, especially since the belief he shares with Trump and other right-wingers are truly odious. And Cenk would say that Trump is, he probably would say Trump is a fascist.
We handed almost unlimited power to a fascist wannabe. Buckle up.
And he shares the same opinion that bombing brown people overseas is the correct thing to do. He also supported war in Libya.
Now let me tell you what I think is the worst case scenario. We bring in ground troops, they get ensnared in the middle of a civil war, we get blamed for invading another Arab country, we waste a tremendous amount of money and suffer many needless casualties. Now the second worst case scenario is that we do nothing, Gaddafi slaughters his opposition, stays in power, and the rest of the dictators throughout the world get the message that the way to retain power is by mercilessly killing your own people. It appears that we have avoided those two options for the moment being. Now, the best case scenario is that we provide air cover for the rebels and they take out Gaddafi and we hope for a secular democracy in Libya and move on with our lives. Now, that's still possible and would be terrific. But there is a middle case scenario where we provide air cover, there's more of a fair fight on the ground, and Gaddafi wins anyway. Yes, that's also possible when you don't bring in ground troops. Here's what I say to that. C'est la vie, as our French allies would say. We tried our best. We live in an imperfect world. There's no way I'm sending in ground troops, so we hope that our best efforts through the air and the sea help enough for the rebels to win. Yes, that is splitting the baby, but for good reason, because the alternatives are far worse. I think that is the Obama doctrine, which is achieve consensus, do the best you can, and leave it be. And in this case, I think that's as good as we can hope for. I'm on board.
Cenk is a warmonger. So like I said earlier, I said by the end of this video, I'm going to show you that Cenk doesn't actually believe this argument that he's making. So take a look at this tweet by Cenk. So to end this video, don't take Cenk seriously. Don't take Ana Kasparian seriously. Don't take the Young Turks seriously. Don't take Ryan Grimm seriously. He's terrible as well. Oh, and I just remembered something that Cenk does that is troubling to say the least, and it's something that right-wingers do quite often. It's something that anyone who is being objective would have to acknowledge. Something that the right does is they would have a token black person, a token gay person, a token whatever, Muslim, whatever the hell, minority group, oppressed group on their show to shit on people of that group. And they would say like, oh, like for example, a black person, oh, black people aren't oppressed in this country. Candace Owens is one of those because yada 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 yada. Or gay people, they have all the same rights as straight people because yada 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 yada. Muslims don't face any discrimination in this country because yada yada yada. They do that quite often. Have a token minority or women. Well, women are minorities, but women have been historically oppressed in some ways. They have a woman on their network saying women doesn't face this because da da da, look at me, I'm rich, which is complete foolishness, right? So something that Cenk Uygur has also done is, so many of you know or don't know, Cenk is of Turkish descent, or he's from Turkey. I'm not exactly sure. His parents are Turkish at the very least, right? And the Turkish government, they committed the Armenian genocide, and they denied it. And the Turkish government that committed the Armenian genocide, they named themselves the Young Turks. Cenk has also denied the Armenian genocide. So I'm not sure if many of you know, his co-host, the executive producer, Ana Kasparian, who I have videos coming on her very shortly. Ana Kasparian, the executive producer, she's Armenian. So she is essentially a token Armenian. She says, oh, you know, Cenk has apologized, da da da. He told me his reason for naming it the Young Turks has something to do with political rebels, and is not the Armenian genocide he denied once happened, has nothing to do with that whatsoever, even though he denied it happening. So I'm going to be the token Armenian and say, oh, I am fine with the name Young Turks. So ignore every other person who's Turkish who is Armenian that has an issue with the show. Ana Kasparian said it's fine, so I can keep the name the Young Turks. That's quite despicable. That is absolutely disgusting. So there was a video that Cenk did on why the Redskins should change their name, and he said because it's offensive, right? So I'm actually going to show some comments at the end of my video, so you can see some of the comments that Armenian people made saying like, hey, I'm Armenian and I'm incredibly offended by the the name of the show, The Young Turks. Are you going to change your name as well? Of course, that was all ignored. It had many dislikes on. He made at least 2 videos on why the Redskins should change their name. So many Armenians in the comments said like, hey, when are you going to change the name of this? I feel offended. This is incredibly offensive to you. My family went through this. My family went through that. Da, da, da. And he's not changing the name to Young Turks. He's a terrible person. He is a right winger. Not necessarily saying all right wingers are a terrible person, but that's what Cenk is. Cenk is a pro-war maniac. He's a jingoistic maniac. And there are many examples of racism. I did a whole video of that with the TYT and its history of racism. And Cenk can't stop saying the N-word.
They're never going to catch me using that word nigger.
I did a whole video on that. But Cenk, he is incredibly right-wing, incredibly terrible, as well as Anna Kasparian. I have at least one more video coming on Cenk and a few coming on Anna, because I focus mostly on Cenk. So far, most of my videos have been focused on Cenk, but Anna she's pretty terrible as well, so I definitely have videos coming on her too. Some on Ryan Grimm, possibly on Emma Vigeland, we'll see. But the Young Turks as a whole they are terrible. They're terrible. So that's something absolutely disgusting that Cenk does, has a token Armenian saying it's fine for a name to remain the Young Turks, even though he denied it even happened at one point. That's no different than people that deny the Holocaust happened if they named their show like, I don't know, the Nazis. And like, oh, you know, Nazis have another meaning. I'm not sure if it does, but let's say it did. So it's fine. Even though I denied the Holocaust happened, I'm gonna name it the Nazis because it means whatever I say it means, or whatever other meaning it has. So what everybody else say, if they say it's not cool that you name that, people that were actually affected by that, I'm gonna keep the name no matter what. And that's what Cenk Uygur is doing. That's particularly disgusting. It's disgusting that Anna would be an executive producer of a show like that, not demanding a name change. That's disgusting. So, do I have anything else to say? Yeah, about Anna, it's not a surprise that she did that, considering her segments, her incredibly degrading segments about women that she chose, because, you know, she's an executive producer. So, not a surprise, right?
Yeah, but there's something weird about the way her cooch looks.
It is. I know. It feels like, you know what it is? It looks like an old cooch.
It does look like an old cooch.
Yeah. All right. So, Anna, is there some psychological thing behind this? Or is she just so drunk she doesn't realize she doesn't have panties on and just opens up her legs like this in front of the cameras?
I don't think it's a psychological thing at all. I mean, first of all, if you're going to wear a short skirt or a short dress without underwear, you're an idiot. Like, that's just stupid. You know what I mean? And nobody wants to see your coochie, girl. Close those legs.
My guess is actually a lot of people want to see her coochie, unfortunately.
It's nasty.
You think it's nasty?
Yeah,
it's questionable, I'm telling you.
So, that's all I gotta say for this video. No, it's not. Whoa. See, I haven't done videos in a long time, forgetting what I normally do. So, before I end the video, I gotta leave you with one more thing for the video's over, and that's the word of the day. The word of the day for today is odious. Odious is spelled O-D-I-O-U-S. The definition of odious is extremely unpleasant, repulsive. So now I will attempt to use odious in a sentence. Cenk Uygur, Anna Kasparian, and the Young Turks as a whole have incredibly odious beliefs, and their ideology. Their ideologies are quite odious. Hopefully I use that sentence correctly. So again, if you like the content, like, subscribe to the channel, turn on the post notification. I'll post videos in the future because YouTube will not share my videos unless you do so. And use odious in the comment section below in a sentence so you know you watch the video to the end. Other than that, I appreciate y'all watching my video. And oh, I have a Patreon account now. You want to donate to my Patreon? Anywhere between $3 to $10 a month helps my channel grow massively. I would really appreciate it. It's patreon.com/keep it100dre, or you can donate to my Buy Me a Coffee if you want to donate a little more, because Patreon has its limits. You can donate any amount you want on Buy Me a Coffee. It'd be much appreciated. I'm gonna have Patreon account, Patreon for my Patreon members, and for people who donate on Buy Me a Coffee. I have exclusive things coming up. Probably in a little over a month after I get my second surgery, because I don't want to commit to it prior to my surgery, because I don't know. I'm probably going to be back on medication heavily, and I'm not going to be able to do much again. So I want to let y'all know when I start recovering from my surgery, when I don't have to take the medication as often. The
Percocet, Miley Percocet, Percocet, Miley Percocet.
So that's all I say for this video. I'm Dennis. Peace.
Why didn't we know this was going to happen? And the people who train the Afghan military, where are they tonight? Jimmy Dore is the host of the Jimmy Dore Show. He joins us. Thank you, Jimmy Dore, for coming on tonight. You got to wonder, 20 years of training the Afghan military by the Pentagon, you know, what did they do with all that time and all that money?
Well, you know, it's kind of interesting. I mean, if we just imagine if we weren't in Afghanistan for the last 20 years, the Middle East might be unstable. So, I mean, you remember Trump tried to pull. By the way, this war is bipartisan, right? As right. All wars are. They're very bipartisan right now. The military-industrial complex has a stranglehold on both parties. So Trump was trying to pull us out of this war because it turns out you can't just invade other people's countries, set up a Starbucks and a McDonald's and think they're going to be just like us. We've had fathers and sons, and pretty soon we're going to have grandsons fighting in Afghanistan. So it's a nice way for Americans to make multi-generational memories, I guess. But what happened when Trump tried to pull out, if you remember, Congressman Crowley and Liz Cheney got together, bipartisan, and they put a stop, and they said Trump wouldn't be able to pull out unless he met these certain criteria, which we'll never meet. So they made sure the president, the commander-in-chief, could not pull us out of Afghanistan. But now here is Joe Biden, who claims he's going to pull us out of Afghanistan. First of all, as soon as he announced it, he started ramping up the bombing. I don't know if you know that. He bombed Shahid Anwar Khan High School and a health clinic that killed 20 people, a lot of them women and children. So he's ramping up the bombings as he's saying we're pulling out. And I don't know what that is, if that's dementia or what, but that's the guy who's ordering the strikes. That's happening right now. They increased the military budget. So why is Joe Biden being allowed to pull out of Afghanistan? Well, because he's agreed to start bombing in Somalia. I don't know if you know that's happening. Joe Biden is now bombing the poorest people in Africa. Like 40% of the country are nomads. And Joe Biden is now bombing Somalia. So that, and now he's occupying a third of Syria right now. So he's just switching his imperialism. And I really appreciate you giving me a chance to come on and talk about this, because they'll never stand up against imperialism at CNN or MSNBC or anywhere else. So I just want to say thanks for that. And what we need right now is a real anti-war movement to rise up in America to stop these wars. They gave Joe Biden an extra $25 billion to do war. I thought we're getting out of Afghanistan. Why does it need an extra $25 billion? And let's remember how much $25 billion is. $20 billion, they say, could end homelessness. So we just don't have the political will. Every pothole those $25 billion worth of bombs make in another country is a pothole that's not getting fixed in America. We can bomb everywhere in America, but we can't feed our own people. I live in a democratically controlled state that's got a Democratic governor, and we've got people living under every bridge in California. How about we start spending some of that money back here at home?
That would. I agree with you 100%. Jimmy Dore, great to see you tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, I've been stacking up. Nah, really, that ain't accurate, cause I just spent my whole damn advance in the past couple months just to compensate for times we ain't have enough. Ooh.